Hey, welcome to the Strong Roots podcast. My name is Kristin Hill, and we are so excited that you're tuning in today. Our prayer is that you would move one step closer to Jesus through this series. So go ahead and check out this next episode. Hey, Strong Roots. I'm answering your questions this season, and I have a good one today. The question somebody wrote in is, how do you point your kids to Jesus all throughout the day? And I feel like in answering this, there could have been a million different answers I could have given you. But I think the most important thing I can communicate with you today that I believe is the way we can point to Jesus every single day is to give our kids an eternity mindset. I don't think there's a more important lesson we can teach our kids than modeling for them that the pursuit of stuff and material things will never satisfy, ever, in the end. I want to go to 1 John 2:15 through 16. It says, "Do not love the world or anything in the world. If anyone loves the world, love for the Father is not in them. For everything in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life comes not from the Father, but from the world." God has so much more for us and every human being than the stuff that we crave and what the world offers us. Yet we live so often, myself included, in such a way that our kids cannot see this truth. They see us striving and stressing because we have one thing, but we want another thing, right? They see us comparing ourselves to others. And sadly, many of them, they even see us comparing them to others, them to other people who maybe are achieving more in school or relationally or in whatever context, you name it. We can point our kids to Jesus all throughout the day by choosing ourselves to live for eternity instead of this world. And what this looks like, in my opinion, is it's giving to others instead of constantly giving to ourselves and wanting and buying things for ourselves. It means comparing ourselves to Jesus instead of others. He is the standard. His love is the standard. It's asking our kids for forgiveness when we mess up, because this is what God has called us to do, is to be humble and to constantly be making it right. If there's anything in the way of a relationship with somebody else, God says, don't go to me. Fix it with them first. So parents, asking for our children's forgiveness because we screw up. I screw up. I don't know about you. I screw up on the daily. Choosing peace and prayerfulness instead of stress. And this is something that I feel like God has naturally let me be able to do. I find myself praying all throughout the day, probably because I mess up so much, not because I'm good at this at all. But now that when I close my eyes, even if I'm just taking a cat nap, my kids will be like, Mom, are you praying or are you sleeping? And I think this is something that we need to have our kids see us do. They need to see us crying out to God, even if it has to do with them. Like, we need to be praying instead of stressing about things. And the last thing I have is we need to choose to follow Jesus and his ways when no one is looking, regardless of the cost. I think so often, so many kids see their parents worshiping God in a building and talking about him with their church friends, but then outside of those circles or outside of those buildings, they do nothing to show their love and reverence for the Lord. Parents, we need to show our kids that we love Jesus and his ways and his words every single area of our life. And this is living with an eternity mindset. So my challenge for us is I want you to ask yourself this question. What is one way I'm living for this world and not for eternity? How can I change that behavior so that my kids will see who I am really living for? I think having kids that follow Jesus, it's not promised. We can pray for it. We could live for Jesus passionately. It's not promised. But the best way that we could show them that Jesus is worth following is by modeling it in every area and making sure that our minds are set on heaven and not on this world. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I cannot wait to answer your question next week. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow us on our other social media platforms. We don't want you to miss out on any future content. Thank you so much again, guys. I hope you have a great day. And I want you to know I am personally praying that your roots stay strong.